True nostalgia isn't the replication of a specific place or time, but of a feeling. It's those flashes of emotion that transport us back into memories that have long sat dormant. I was born too late to be a teenager in the 90s, and believe it or not, with this accent, I grew up thousands of miles away from the schools of Northern California. I've barely stepped on a skateboard outside of a few scraped knees in the summer of 2003, but none of that matters, and Mixtape knows this. Australian developer Beethoven and Dinosaur fills each and every moment of its coming-of-age tale with incredible music, perfectly hand-picked to set the tone for its free-flowing chapters in a way only nostalgia can. As original as it is reverential, it's a masterfully constructed dose of new memories hinged brilliantly on how they remind us of our own. The coming-of-age story is perhaps my favourite framework in all of fiction. That longing for a time I didn't live in and being given a chance to hang out with friends who never knew me are sensations I find myself coming back to often. This is far from the first video game to tackle the concept, of course, but it might just be the first one to have nailed a tonal balance that hits just right for me. I've tried to enjoy the Life is Strange series more than once, but I've just found its dialogue a little too corny for my liking to fully get into. Mixtape, on the other hand, feels more rooted in how actual people talk and is all the better for it. Sweet without being saccharine, thoughtful but never forced, and always funny.
There have been noise complaints.
Okay.
The story centres on Stacey Rockford and her group of friends as they look to make the most of their last day together and reminisce about past adventures before she skips town to chase her dreams in New York. You aren't given choices here, but experience these fully formed characters' hijinks and heartaches, warts and all, and they feel all the more realistic for it. That's not to say their recollection of these adventures isn't laced with flights of fantasy though, as they've clearly been embellished in Rockford's mind, allowing each to be presented with lashings of style as if they were playable music videos. There's a great sense of spectacle later on that I wouldn't dare spoil, but I'm going to show you a couple of little clips here of the sort of thing you'll be getting up to earlier on, including like a trippy softball session and a police raid of a house party that you escape by hurtling downhill in a shopping cart. And these are all soundtracked by some brilliant songs, none of which I can sadly play for you here because YouTube won't like that, but trust me, the playlist is incredible. I'll mention a couple later.
Fair.
And music is kind of a big theme of Beethoven and Dinosaur's games. If you played their debut, The Artful Escape, you'd know that it used psychedelic metaphor to tell a tale of self-expression. Mixtape, though, is far more grounded in its exploration of friendship and how those closest to us help us grow. It's a story that won't necessarily surprise, but will comfort, and is often hilarious. It's like those aimless afternoons you spend with friends without any specific goal for what the day had in store. But you'd always end up learning something new about them, whether they'd want to reveal it or not. Obviously, those unlocked memories aren't yours, they're Rockford's. But these memories are just so well observed that they come across as universal, as if they could be ripped straight from your teenage Facebook or MySpace page if you're getting on a bit like me. In many ways, it's best to treat Mixtape, well, like a mixtape, with no knowledge of where it will go next, beyond a trust placed in the creator. There's no interest in fail states or high score chasing here, instead prioritising existing in and enjoying the moment. Its simple mechanics match its simpler times, with each twist aiming to elicit a fresh emotion through interactivity in a way that only video games can. That can be as simple as hitting a series of buttons to headbang in rhythm to Silverchair's Freak.
Shit, it's the cops. Reach up, it's Joe. Are they gone?
Or just having a good time designing your own slushies from a selection of flavours. Some though are a little more out there, such as the recollection of Rockford's first kiss, where with each analog stick you control a tongue and awkwardly have to navigate a set of brace-filled teeth until mercifully a button pops up at the bottom that says, "That's enough." It's funny, it's gross, but you know, I pressed that button as soon as I could. Each memory sequence spawns from a keepsake found around the world that smartly serves as the key to unlocking cherished memories. In this regard, Mixtape is somewhat similar to What Remains of Edith Finch, although I'd never say it carries anywhere near the same amount of emotional weight as Giant Sparrow's masterpiece, instead sidelining deep-rooted familial trauma for a focus on youthful joy. Any replay value is found in wanting to revisit these short pockets of fun. They won't change, nor will the relationships or conversations within them, but familiarity is at the core of nostalgia, and I can see myself treating Mixtape like one of those comfort films you pop on every couple of years. You know what's going to happen, so the surprise factor is gone. But spending time with these characters whose lives are only a few hours long is still valuable. That's probably why I've already played through its roughly 3-hour campaign 3 times already.
What are we doing?
Hanging out, getting buzzed.
I've got to get out of this place.
Best friends Slater and Cassandra are excellent foils to Rockford too, with an instant sense that these three have been a close-knit group instantly delivered via quick-hit, sarcasm-fueled jabs, and the sort of goofy noises spilling out of their mouths that only occur when you feel completely comfortable around someone. The writing and performances really do come across as just almost effortlessly natural, which is such a difficult thing to accomplish. Cassandra in particular has some standout scenes and ended up being my favourite of the bunch, even if some aspects of her character change a little too abruptly to be 100% believable at certain parts in the story.
I'm bored. I'm too young to be this bored. You want to get blackout drunk in a field?
I can't.
But the star of the show arguably is the music. Rockford herself is an aspiring Hollywood music supervisor, and as such, pop songs from the early 90s and decades before propel much of the adventure. Big artists are here, but not always alongside their biggest hits. It's a nice touch, as if someone like Rockford, a music connoisseur who dreams of a profession centered on unearthing audio gold to match a mood, has curated the soundtrack. I particularly enjoy the way you can walk around and get her to comment and give analysis on some songs, like some sort of Patrick Bateman with far less violent intentions.
Portishead's debut album, Dummy. A must-have. Cinematic, ambitious, ahead of its time. Just like me.
The opening skate to Devo's That's Good is the perfect high-energy pace setter, whereas the scuzzy Love by the Smashing Pumpkins provides a fantastic backdrop for some explosive angst. I'm not sure I felt a game connects so intrinsically to its music in such a charming way since Simogo's Sayonara Wild Hearts, and I couldn't get enough. It consistently hits a delightful cross-section of games, music and movies. From Dazed and Confused to Ladybird, it reminds me of some of my favourite coming-of-age stories, without ever feeling like pastiches of them. Mixtape does this elegantly and with a genuine love for the genre its creators clearly hold close, as Beethoven and Dinosaur itself comes of age with its sophomore effort. But it isn't just tonally looking towards cinema. It plays with the form, in turn becoming a mixed media wonderland of a video game. There's the glorious, painstakingly handcrafted Spider-Verse-esque animation that enraptures at a glance, along with the use of grainy live-action stock footage, music video-like editing ribbons, and fun fourth-wall breaks. It's not afraid to experiment and nerd out when it comes to stamping different styles on different scenes, and is all the better for it, keeping things constantly fresh. Look, I was always going to be a mark for Mixtape. As a coming-of-age movie lover with an ear often lent to the guitar music of decades past, and someone who likes to indulge in the bittersweet sensation of melancholy, it's as if Beethoven and Dinosaur made this just for me. I mean, it even references David Shire's unused Apocalypse Now score in an early scene. I can't help but fear I've been actively spied on. But the beauty of Mixtape is that you don't need to be exactly the type of person it's for to get a lot out of it. Much like nostalgia, it brings out feelings you may have long forgotten, through faces and songs you may have never seen or heard before, but which bring familiar, faded emotions with them all the same. It reminds me of times I once enjoyed, but in hindsight, wish I'd held dearer in the moment. It's a mistake I didn't let happen again with Mixtape, as I savoured each and every minute, all the way to its final, powerful button press.
Oh, this section, this is what I'm talking about.
Nostalgia is a bittersweet feeling, but one we can't help but fall into the clutches of, whether by choice or not. It's a sensation immaculately captured by Mixtape, a soulful journey that creates new memories you felt like you've had for years at every turn. Each song choice is perfectly matched to the novel vignette it backs, delivering a new fleeting joy with every chapter as surprising gameplay twists are woven throughout its funny yet touching campaign. A musical delight from start to finish, Mixtape sets a new standard for coming-of-age stories and video games, and does so with a masterful sense of style.
Reviews director Tom Marks here with Simon Cardy, our reviewer for Mixtape, to talk a little bit more about that very big number that just showed up at the end of the video. If you've probably seen Simon around, he reviewed Death Stranding 2 for us, Astrobot, Overwatch, the 1 and 2, Horizon Forbidden West, a bunch of stuff. Cardy, this is your fourth 10, I believe, over your long tenure at IGN.
Yes.
But as you said before we started, you use the whole scale because you have just as many 3s.
Oh, I have 2s and
Yeah.
3s and 4s. Like, yeah, only like a couple of years ago, I gave like Modern Warfare 3, I think, a 4, and FIFA on Switch a 2 back in the day. Yeah, like, so let's use the whole scale, you know?
This isn't just you being top heavy. Your other 10s were God of War Ragnarok, Disco Elysium, The Final Cut, which you did the original review as a 9.6, and then Final Cut got up to a 10. And then you did an updated review of Overwatch in 2020 that you gave a 10. And I think that was at like, that game has had ups and downs, and that was really at the peak of what Overwatch was.
It was near a peak, yeah.
So, but this is notable because this is the first 10 of 2026, and I just want to dig into this. We had this conversation with Logan Plant when he did Donkey Kong and gave that a 10 last year, and also Liana Hafer when she gave Hades 2 a 10 last year. Those were only 2 game review 10s in 2025. What makes a 10 for you? What kind of pushes it from a really amazing thing to what you would consider a masterpiece, something that you think is is the peak of what it's doing?
It has to sing to my heart in order to get to that 10 mark, right? There's a lot of games that do things incredibly well, but it needs to either, like you said, kind of not perfectly, but, you know, as close to perfectly achieve what it sets out to do.
Yeah, and of note, very explicitly in our score policy, which you can find on IGN.com, a 10 does not mean perfect for us. We prescribe the idea that there is no such thing as a perfect game or movie or whatever, and if we held it to that standard, nothing would ever reach it. So it doesn't mean perfect.
I think there's different types of 10s. You know, I play a game like Elden Ring and you play and you're like, okay, yeah, this is just absolutely brilliant in pretty much everything it does. Mixtape is a very different kind of game. It's like a 2 to 3 hour musical, narrative heavy like story, and I played Mixtape, and it was kind of one of those moments where I was very excited for it, and not until I played it through was I like, this is one of those games I always wanted to play but no one's made it. Like, I think there's games that kind of are similar to it, like Life is Strange I've never quite cracked. I've always liked the idea of it. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a game I really like, but again would be an 8 or a 9 for me. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of my favorite games of all time. That would be a 10, and this is kind of a close parallel, I think, to that in games that tell stories in interesting ways and kind of are constantly mixing up their gameplay without ever really going heavy on gameplay. You know, you play a game like Saros and that is gameplay first, and it is a brilliant game, I think, whereas Mixtape is a game where it's very much story and vibes first, and those are the things I look for kind of in whatever media I'm like, if it's a book or a film or an album, you know, it's just, I just kind of want to sit in it for hours and like enjoy the tone and the vibe of it, and like Mixtape is just, yeah, it nails that for me.
Sure, yeah, and that is ultimately what it is, right? It's your highest recommendation, the highest recommendation you can give to a game for other people. You mentioned in this review that you love coming of age stories, that it's probably your favorite sort of story structure in whatever medium.
Yeah.
What is it about them that you like so much? What speaks to you about that? What makes them special?
I think it's just the ever decaying mind and body that I live in, and I just want to relive that youth again. No, I think it's just, it's kind of like those moments where you're kind of seeing lots of different stories from lots of different perspectives, but they're all kind of like, there's that core universal like kind of rite of passage that everyone went through. You can have license to go through any sort of emotion in those stories, but I think the primary one is kind of always joy or comedy, and they're always, I don't know, there's something about coming of age stories that I think we all have those moments, not to get too deep, where we're like kind of like laying awake and like, oh, you know, if I could go back and do it again, I would. But like these films almost like kind of give you a gateway to do that without physically doing it yourself. You're like, oh, here's how life could have been different at 18 or whatever, if you know what I mean.
So the other perspective of this I wanted to dig into is, I think a common criticism of people who don't enjoy games like this, which is fine, you know, everyone can have their tastes, is, well, it's not much of a game, right? Either the walking simulator criticism or like the interaction in these sort of music video-esque segments is very light. Like, obviously, again, I'm not saying anybody is wrong for disliking that stuff. It fully comes down to taste, and that's why reviews are a person's opinion. But it works for you here. So my question is, like, what makes, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, interaction light games work when does that line become too blurry between I'm just watching a cutscene or just listening to a bunch of dialogue? Like, what's the line there? What's the balance? Why do you enjoy it here?
I think the key is that there are cutscenes in this game, but more often than not, like, it's always asking you to do something. But even if it's as simple as literally one button press to make characters headbang in time to music, like, it's essentially a cutscene, but you're still a part of it. But then there's more gamey bits, you know, like there's bits where you're using a slingshot. You know, I'm not saying this is like Call of Duty third-person shooting, but, you know, and you're like skimming stones and stuff like that. Like, there are moments like that where it is more gamey, but then there's also points where it is very story heavy and single button presses. I think of games like The Last of Us Part 2, which are obviously very much more of a stealth action adventure, wholly a game, but also there's moments where it's cutscenes. There's a point in that where Ellie has to commit like a quite heinous bit of violence. A lot of games would just show it in a cutscene, but that game asks you to press the square button 3 times. Like it asks you to take part in it, right? And I feel like Mixtape is asking you to have that same level of interactivity on a lot, you know, less evil scale. But, you know, you know, it's, you are taking part, you feel like you are these characters rather than just watching them enjoy life. It's like you have stepped into their friendship group for a few hours and been a part of their story rather than just watching their story. Sure,
that makes a lot of sense. Cardy, thank you so much for chatting with us about this a little bit more. If you want another 10 out of 10 video review from Cardy, Disco Elysium: The Final Cut is you can check out that one and see kind of a very, very, very different
game,
very different kind of game, and a very different way of delivering a story too, as sort of its major focus. So you can hear his thoughts there. If you want another type of story game from more recent, Life is Strange Reunion just came out last month, and you can check out our review of that. And for everything else, stick with IGN.